Good evening, everyone. My name is Dijana Jelača, and I'm the programmer of the Bosnian-Herzegovinian Film Festival. Thank you for being here, as always. We are delighted to have the director of Frida with us tonight, Aleksandra Odić. I will just introduce her briefly and invite her to the stage. So Aleksandra Odić is a Berlin-based filmmaker, born in Bosnia. As a child, she moved to Germany due to the war. Her work as an actress was followed by studies of film direction at the German Film and Television Academy, Berlin. She directed short films Draško, My Father, 2009, Sanja Dreams, 2011, Before the Dance, 2014, and New Snow, also 2014. Great Wall of China, which was a mid-length film from 2017, premiered at the Sarajevo Film Festival and at the Berlinale in Berlin Film Festival 2018, and won several awards, including at our own festival as well. Her new film, next short, was The Boy with the Checkered Shirt, 2019, which premiered at the film festival Max Ophüls Prize 2019 and was part of the German talent showcase Next Generation Short Tiger 2019. Her new short film that we just saw, Frida from 2021, premiered at the Cannes Film Festival in the section Cine Fondación and won the Queer Palm Award for Short Movie 2021 and the Lights on Women Award. She also serves as a juror at international festivals, and her first feature film, Vanja, is currently in development. So please join me in welcoming Aleksandra to the stage.
Ist dir kalt?
Nein.
Wollen wir runtergehen? Mhm.
Good evening, Aleksandra.
Good evening.
Welcome back.
Thank you.
It's great to have you again.
It's great to be here.
Likewise. Let's start by talking about the film. You wrote and directed Frida.
Yes.
You featured two, one German actress and another from Luxembourg originally. The film came out in 2021. I assume you wrote it sometime earlier. Is it in any way directly or indirectly pandemic related?
No, it's not pandemic related. It was written and shot before the pandemic. So it was just about this encounter between a professional nurse and her patient, between these two women, a story that I wanted to tell since very long. And through the pandemic, the spotlight fall also on medical care workers, but the film was not made due to pandemic situation.
So that's very interesting. You had this idea for a long time, and once you ended up doing it, you could see how people could interpret it through many different lenses and also find it relatable specifically through the pandemic lens. So you said you had this idea for a long time. What about this idea and about this story interested you, and what made you want to write and make a film about this relationship?
Before I became a filmmaker, as a director, I was an actress. And before I was an actress, I worked as a nurse, professional nurse, and that's where I encountered and met many people, most of them young, very young. They suffered from AIDS. And these encounters inspired me to want to tell this story, to make a film about it. And that's how it came. I did not know if how much the world or the audience is interested in stories about nurses, their feelings towards their work and patients. But yes, now the film was very well received at many festivals.
I think I would venture to say, speaking from my own perspective, I'm very interested, and I also just thinking about hearing you say this. It's also a very underexplored kind of theme. Medical caretakers and workers' relationship to their own patients, their own involvement. It's not just labor, medical labor. It's also in many ways affective and emotional labor. Is that something that came from your own experience, and then you wanted to make a film about?
Yes, it's like maybe it's even like a taboo, or that they work as professional nurses and doctors, and it's somehow, sorry about my not too good English, it's not usual that they would take these topics out of their professional surrounding, so that is why one doesn't know much about it. Somehow they are able to deal with it. That's part of their profession. But I was very much interested in trying to tell the story, what actually happens within, with your own soul and feelings, and how precious also this is to get in touch, to get very close to someone, and how dangerous it also is. This is why the uniform that they wear, it's kako se kaže, štiti ih. It protects them.
Protective.
Yes, it protects. It's certain. It's a border. It's a line that you wouldn't cross. It protects both sides.
So it sort of becomes more impersonal through the uniform.
Yes.
So that's something that can actually be extended to more broadly to professional work, especially in Western capitalist countries, where sort of professionalism is assumed to necessarily have to be separated from emotions, or showing emotions, or investing in emotions in one's own work. And again, I'll go back to the pandemic and thinking through medical workers and caretakers, especially in the thick of it at the beginning in 2020, being the only and last people that those who were really severely affected would see and have contact with before they passed away. And doctors and nurses, actually, because they had to wear the protective gear, which can also seem very impersonal but necessary, would have name tags with their photos so that the patients could see their faces as well. And so you framed the story specifically about AIDS. Do you want to say more about that, and what your intentions were, or where you were coming from with that particular angle?
Well, I was thinking if I should mention it in the film or not, because it's the film is not so much about this illness. It's more about the encounter between two similar young women, and that's somehow something that I've wanted to focus on. But then we decided to put the red ribbon in the end of the credits. Sometimes you don't see it because the credits are not shown until the end, but it's there. And well, today in the Western world, AIDS is there is very good treatment possibility, but it's not everywhere in the world accessible like it is here today. So it's still a problem, and yeah. But the main focus of the film is not on the specific illness of the woman.
And that comes through because, like you said, it's not really overtly mentioned; it's implied. What's also not overtly mentioned, correct me if I'm wrong, is the name of the nurse. She's credited as nurse, whereas Frida, the patient, is in the film's title. Do you want to say more about that? The commentary versus naming, or between naming versus non-naming?
Yeah, this was also connected to this function that nurses have. Of course, they have their name, but that, not even in Germany, where I live and where I also worked as nurse, they did not. I think today it's different. They didn't even wear their names on their uniform. Not necessarily. Some of them did, some didn't. But it's more about this relationship. Frida is an individual. She has her name, and the nurse is behind the uniform. And during the film, her name is never said. So we let it just like this. I never wanted to give too much biographical information about both characters, because there is this very narrow frame of their relationship, and that's what it is about. Yeah, I wanted to keep the story very simple and to tell about distance and closeness between the two of them, and not to expand it to the whole background story. Why would the nurse now want to get closer to this specific woman? In this short form, I found that the right dose. Of course, if it was a feature, you would tell much more.
Yeah, that's what I found very interesting. There's not a lot of if any, exposition in film, we call when characters just talk to each other in a very unnatural way, but they're really telling us what's going on and explaining something about themselves that the other person would already know in the world of the film. In fact, the film is very quiet. There's very little dialogue. There's still moments, meditative, contemplative moments, and then there's water. There's water happening. So this flow and fluidity of experience is something you call attention to. From the filmmaking technical aspects or artistic aspects, can you tell us about your use of close-ups? Because they're incredibly striking in this film.
Well, how to approach this, the topic of the film. What is exactly the topic of this film? These were the questions that we asked ourselves, and how where would be the camera? How active would the camera be, or how calm and invisible would it stay? So we decided to give the actresses, the characters, the time, because the only thing that they have together is the time that they spend. So we were very careful about the editing. This was our try. We hoped it would work out, but then to have just the close-ups, as in this dream sequence, how to show a dream in a very, very simple way. And we tried it just with a close-up and with eyes closing and opening, so actually it's then very clear what we are trying to tell. And it has a big simplicity. And these two faces that are, for me, kind of, well, this identification between the two of them that could be possible because they are both same age, they are both same sex, and the one is the lucky one who is healthy and the other one not. So how to kako ih usporediti?
How to juxtapose them or compare,
yes,
make a comparison,
exactly.
or
how to juxtapose
parallelism.
them. Yes, we just tried it simply with the face. That's it. Actually, it's everything made very, very simple, because it was we were very careful by touching this topic, because the drama is so big that when you make a film about someone dying, and so we didn't want to make a big dramatic structure to put it on it in the movie. That's why we let it very, very simple camera-wise.
As a film
aesthetically.
As a film geek and film professor, kind of one follows from the other. I was thinking about Ingmar Bergman's Persona and the mirroring between the close-ups,
the mirroring,
faces,
thank
and
you.
it's also the patient-nurse relationship as well. Was that influence in any way?
Yes, definitely. Thank you for the word mirroring. Yes, that's exactly. I watched Persona, of course, many years ago. In Persona, it's the relationship between the nurse and the artist, but it's more the story about the artist, the actress. And this is a short movie more about from a nurse's perspective. So that's the difference. But yes, definitely, Persona was a very inspiring movie.
And I already mentioned the two actresses, but I did want to name them. Vicky Krieps, who has made herself already an international name, working in different languages. Here, German, but we've seen her in English language films with Paul Thomas Anderson's Phantom Thread, and so she's sort of a transnational face of cinema. And then I don't know, is it Anne Schwartz? The second,
Anne Schwartz.
Anne Schwartz. I'm not familiar with her work, but tell us about how you cast them and what your relationship with them was as you were making the film.
We worked with a wonderful casting director, Simone Bea, German casting director, who passed away this year in January. And Vicky Krieps has a very good relationship to had a very good relationship to Simone Bea, and that's how we got in touch, how we were introduced. And Anne Schwarz I knew already as actress, but it was also, the contact was also made through Simone Bea. And these are two wonderful actresses who Anne Schwarz played more in theater and now more and more in film, in German cinema especially. And about Vicky Krieps, you said so many things already. So the work was just fine, very natural, very easy. We had rehearsals for the technical part of the things that the nurse has to do, which an actress doesn't know, has to learn, and I could teach her. but the emotional part, this the closeness, the encounter, the time they spent together, their bodies coming together, and this was happened in a very natural way. You talk a little bit about it, and then you try. You go there and you try. You rehearsal on set, and it was there because Vicky. I like them both very much, and Vicky has this. Someone once said she plays with her skin. She has this presence.
About you as a filmmaker, we talk about you at this festival and invite you, and I mentioned in my introduction, diasporic filmmaker. You hail from Bosnia, you left Bosnia because of the war. Your previous film that we showed at the festival, which also won an award, The Great Wall of China, was a film that is much more directly related to Bosnian society. It was a contemporary story, really beautiful one about a young woman really deciding to leave, which is such an urgent story that is happening to many young people in Bosnia, sort of the dispossession and not seeing much chance for recognition or progress and deciding to leave. Should I stay or should I go? That dilemma. And in this case, you have a film that's really, if we talk about the story, the context of it, even though we can extrapolate it to more universal themes, but the immediate context is not directly related to Bosnia. So when your film goes to Cannes Film Festival or travels around international film festivals, do people ask you about how you categorize yourself? Do you resist categorization in these sort of... Are you a German filmmaker? Are you a German Bosnian filmmaker? How do you deal with these kind of categorizations? Because it's kind of inevitable that people often, just to be able to place someone, we create these categories that we want to fit people in. How do you think through these questions?
Well, it depends where I am. Of course, here at this festival, this wonderful festival about Bosnian-Herzegovinian cinematography from Bosnia-Herzegovina and from diasporic filmmakers, it's a central topic of our identity. And I am German Bosnian filmmaker, but if I am somewhere else in the world, if people... I don't get this question so often. It's more where do you live? Where are you from? And then mostly I say I live in Berlin, and I mostly add, and originally I'm from Bosnia. That's all. Yes, I am a German filmmaker. I insist. Once I'm there, I want to stay. But my work will, I hope, will always stay a combination of topics of both from both cultures, and a mixture of all of it. This was what I always wished as an artist and also as a human being, not to feel this separation as a gap, as a loss, but to combine it, to make something. Jednu cijelinu, kako se kaže cijelina?
A whole.
To make a whole, yes, which is very beautiful. And either it's that one short film is set in the German society with absolutely no attachment to my diasporic or migration origins, and another one is shot in Bosnia, in Bosnian language and culture, either that way or to combine it in one film. It always depends on the topic and on what you're working on. But actually I would like to be in both cultures as an artist. And of course, it would be great if we wouldn't need this drawers, if we would just say our name and show our work. Yes, but it's beautiful to be able to know, to be influenced through more than one culture. It's wonderful. It's enriching. And then to sit here with you in New York. Thank you for this festival. It's wonderful that you're doing it every year, better and better.
Thank you so much. Really appreciate it. And of course, we're talking to an audience where a diasporic or exilic experience of being from more than one culture is more common than not. Whether it's our Bosnian diasporic audiences, regional from the former Yugoslavia, or just more generally, New York, and this experience of that fluidity and exactly avoiding these drawers of having to be categorized as one versus many. There's something freeing in just opening up these categories and just being able to permeate many,
yes.
more than one.
But sometimes it's, you need to give things a name so they become visible, and then hopefully you can overcome it and forget about the name again. Because talking about filmmakers with a so-called migration background, that's what we say in Germany. We have maybe the topics that we would like to talk about. They are not typically German. They bring in our influences, but we live there. And in Germany, the situation is, I would say, much different than in the USA about people who migrated. And so you need first to get this space to be accepted, that the stories that you want to tell are good enough, not worse than a typically German story. So there is where we need this categorizations, but actually it would be great if we can overcome them.
Absolutely agree. With that, I'm going to open it up to our audience. If you have a question, please raise your hand and someone will be around to bring a mic. It's hard to see. Right here in the middle.
Hi. So
Hi.
I just wanted to say that I really love the film, and I don't have a film background or anything, but I just really appreciated the story. And my sister's a nurse, and just I know from her experience and her stories, how you can grow to have these kinds of attachments to people and their stories. And I mean, you're caring for them, right? It's such a human thing. So it's really nice to see that. Thank you. What I was curious about is, yeah, how did you make the transition from being a nurse yourself into filmmaking? It's just so interesting.
There was an actress in between, yes?
Yes, but I think you mean filmmaking from both sides. I wish that since a long time, but the circumstances of my life were at times a little bit difficult. So I decided to go to medical school in order to get a visa and to be able to stay in Germany. And I'm very thankful for this experience, very thankful. So one day I had the freedom to decide. I wanted to go this other way. So in a way, Frida is kind of connected to the Bosnian background.
So I was thinking about that as you were talking. The story is remote, but you're drawing from your own nurse experience, and that was your entrance into being able to get papers and start work.
Yeah, you never know what will happen in your life.
Other questions? Right here.
Yes, I want to echo. Thank you for a beautiful film. And my question is actually something about you just mentioned before about the migratory experience in Germany. You seem to say that it was different than in the U.S. And I'm wondering if you find that diasporic or migration film that deals with different themes in Germany versus the U.S. tradition.
You mean in general, diasporic?
Yeah, your own experience, but compared to how do you see this kind of German diasporic tradition is different from the U.S. diasporic tradition?
I don't know I'm not so deep in your culture here, but what I see is that I have to say this in my mother language. Can you please translate? Ono o čemu smo pričali, da se vi ovdje, vi se shvatate kao ova zemlja je zemlja imigranata.
I think one of the biggest differences she sees is that America has fundamentally defined itself as a country of immigrants. Even though obviously I would just add it's not necessarily welcoming to all immigrants, really.
But yes, and in Germany the immigrants were the so-called, the first generations were during the 60s and 70s were the so-called Gastarbeiter, guest workers. So a guest comes, but a guest also goes. But they didn't go. They never left. We have now the second, the third generation people, their children and their grandchildren born in Germany. But it's still it's not so integrated in the culture. It's still a German country, and we can even have German passports, and we can assimilate. That's what happens quite often. Leave away this little linicu,
the diacritic in our
izostavi crticu na č and such things. But when do we talk about topics that are connected to our own culture? How much do we have to assimilate in order to be accepted? And when can we have this space and the freedom to open this door for another influences that also belong to our identity? I mean, it happens a lot right now, yeah. But I think there is a fundamental difference between these two cultures.
Okay, a few hands up. So let's go with Anne in the back, and then we'll go to Vera.
Thank you, and again, echoing, I loved the film.
Thank you.
Building on that diasporic question or discussion we're having, it felt like there was a scene where you lingered, your camera lingered at the in the opening of in the lobby of the hospital. And what I saw in the background was what looked to me like an immigrant family in the waiting room. And I was curious why, you included that.
They were our extras. No, of course, they were very welcome the way they were. Of course, that's part of everyday life in Germany, also in German hospitals. Sure, that's where you try to get them in. First as an extras, and then one day as main cast.
Yeah, I just wanted to say yes, beautiful film. I totally enjoyed that as much as you can enjoy the topic that's also not. I appreciate it is probably a better way to put it. But I was curious if you can talk a little bit about a director who inspires you. Is there anybody that you really find inspiring these days, or maybe an actor or actress, somebody that's influenced you?
Thank you for the question. Yes, many people inspired me. Recently, I watched. They are so different, the filmmakers and their films and their styles. Recently, I watched a film, Pacification by Albert Serra, who is a very interesting contemporary author. And my first love in terms of film directing, author film, was and is John Cassavetes. And, many people between Cassavetes and Serra, too. But, of course, you have your own theme, your own story, and then you have the film, and you find the right way for that film, and it's yours. It's not like someone else's. And a movie that I really like so much is Wanda by Barbara Loden. This was independent, how do you call it, independent Hollywood? No, independent
American. Independent.
Yes, this was 70s. A film forgotten for many years, and now since 2017, it's vidljiv je opet. It's visible again and
yeah.
a lot discussed. It's a wonderful film.
I think Criterion Channel had something to do with it, bringing it back. Criterion Channel. Yes, the lady in the middle. And then we'll go to the gentleman. That will be our last question. So last two questions.
Yeah, so first of all, I really liked your film. I thought it was really wonderful. And one of the things that I do like about it is that it isn't something that can be categorized. It's not, a movie that can be owned by any nation. It's a very kind of human experience, and I really like that. But I also thought, and I don't do film, but I do like to watch a lot of films, and I do feel that sometimes cinema in the Balkans, or like the broader Balkans, but also in Bosnia specifically, tends to focus on the topic of war, of course, a lot, because it's something that impacts people very deeply. But there is sometimes a sense of like, well, let's explore, there are other topics that also touch us on an everyday basis. And I feel like your film does do that very well. And so I wanted to sort of link that to what you said earlier about how you feel certain kinds of pressures when you're in Germany about like the kinds of topics you can cover to be accepted. I don't know if you've had experience presenting your films at like festivals in Bosnia. And do you feel like there are certain kinds of pressures that you experience there in terms of the kinds of stories that you can cover, or that kinds of stories that are deemed as like worthwhile exploring when you're doing film?
Yeah, very interesting question too. Thank you. I try not to feel pressure at all, but for me, it's some kind of actually freedom when to also make films that are not at all connected to war, because yes, when you make a film in Bosnia, a country that still suffers a lot after 30 years from war and all the illnesses that came through it, how can you let it out? I think it's possible. Everything is possible, but for me, this war that happened is still such a big influence on the whole country, and I see it kind of everywhere. But maybe it's just me. So for me, it gives me a big freedom too when I can do something completely not connected to that country and to this topic. Yeah. So for me, this mixture is good. And I didn't feel any pressure in Bosnia or showing a movie that's not connected. I think people are actually they're quite happy when they see a movie. Frida is not about Bosnia, but I remember there was a colleague, a filmmaker. She shot a movie in Bosnia, contemporary Bosnian society, and it wasn't about war, and people applauded. They were so happy, finally. We also have other topics, and people have also other problems, not only focusing on that one.
Great. One last question, the gentleman here.
I love the pacing of your film, but my question is for the curator. All your films tend to have a timelessness, a ability to kind of stay on the moment and focus and give us a sense of just experiencing something rather than the next moment. Can you talk a little bit about that?
Thank you for a question. To me, I didn't expect to sure. That's a very interesting observation. I guess, I work with the team and we deliberate on these things. These are such wonderful, amazing conversations that we have when we look at the films that have been made and the films that are submitted. And I would say that perhaps increasingly, I myself do gravitate towards more contemplative cinema. I think we're more generally, not just Bosnian, I'm not talking Bosnian cinema, but sort of the most visible, dominant cinema of the world, Hollywood, blockbuster, etc. Nothing against them, but there's an oversaturation of constant action, having to immediate gratification. What's the next thing that happens? Give us all the plot points, like serve it like this. Whereas films that are sort of counter-programming for that are invite us to actively participate in creating meaning, in contemplating on what the moments of stillness mean, is something that's really powerful, that where cinema asks us, like Aleksandra's film beautifully does, to experience that atmosphere, to let it overflow us, and to stay with us. Because you're sort of moved after a lot of these films, I find, at least even temporary, sometimes for a longer time. There's something about how you experience your own life and movement through your daily go-abouts changes on a molecular level. That would be my answer. I hope to some satisfaction, but thank you so much. And thank you, Aleksandra.
Thank you.
Wonderful to see you as always. We cannot wait to see your feature film that you're working
Thank
on.
you.
Good luck, and we'll have you back for sure. And thank you all, wonderful audience
Thank
as
you.
always. Please
Wonderful.
please cast your audience ballots, and hopefully we'll see you at our final screening, closing film. Thank you.